You mentioned that Copilot is just ChatGPT.
Yes.
Why does it not work as well?
Why?
Why does it not work as well?
Oh, why does it? So it uses the same models as the OpenAI ChatGPT models. I don't know the specific, but I can tell you that are you talking about the Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, like the plain version, the Copilot, the chat version? Or the Copilot integrated in Microsoft Office tools?
Let's go with both. So I'll give you a very tangible example. The other day I was working in an Excel sheet and I was trying to write a macro.
Yeah.
It's been a little while since I've worked with VBA, so I was like, you know what? I'll ask Copilot to help me with this. And it was worthless. The result, the output of that macro was meaningless. And then I went to ChatGPT and asked the same thing and it nailed it the first time.
Yes. So what Microsoft is doing is they are trying this Copilot in the Office suite, right? They are trying the ChatGPT model, a customized version of that model in the Microsoft suite, and they are in the I think I would say in the initial phase of doing that, and it's not as good as ChatGPT now. But if you probably did this. Ask the same question in Microsoft Copilot, the plain chat version.
I did that.
And still it's bad? Oh, that's interesting. Maybe ChatGPT knows you better. Did you ask more questions before the ChatGPT?
It may also be based on the LLM that's being used in each. So GPT-4 is more advanced than the earlier version. So Microsoft might still be using the older. I'm not entirely sure if that's the case, but that might be an answer to that.
Yeah, Microsoft got rid of the oldest one and it's using the latest two. In ChatGPT, you have access to three, like the old one and then the two new ones. And if you're using the Plus, I think you have more options. But the Copilot, the plain chat version of Microsoft Copilot and the ChatGPT, Microsoft doesn't let you control which models you use. ChatGPT gives you access to like change different models. So you can go with 4.0 or 4.0 small or something. But in Copilot, Microsoft hides which models it uses. You just chat with Microsoft Copilot. But if you if you're logged in and use ChatGPT more and more, it knows you what kind of questions you ask and it will tailor the answers, the responses to what you are asking. So sometimes you might feel ChatGPT is giving better answers than Copilot because ChatGPT already knows you what you're trying to do. Copilot doesn't know that. Or if you're using the Copilot, the exact reverse, the Copilot more, and you're logged into Copilot, it might give you better answers than ChatGPT. It's the same models, same LLM models, but one is trained for you and one is not trained for you or something. But the Microsoft suite, within the Microsoft suite, the Office suite, the Copilot that they use for PowerPoint or Excel, they are in the initial phase right now, I can tell. I've tried to use it. They're not as good as the plain chat version. But I think as the time goes by, that will improve, and because they still have to figure out what you're exactly trying to do, where you're trying to click, what you're trying to do, and so many things, and then tailor the responses. Because I tried to use PowerPoint Copilot, and it wasn't doing exactly what I wanted to do. But you might face the same issue with but things will get better. I think it's going to be much better maybe a year from now. Yes.
So, on the same, just following up on the same thing, looking at the previous speaker session, someone spoke about the Copilot and if you're logged into your Microsoft account and SharePoint and all of the other applications, will it, because if you're the same user that's logged in, have access to all of that data to answer your question with that relevant information, or do you need to skip that?
So in my experience with using Copilot, and I think I was one to give that example you were referencing, it automatically already had it synced based on the user profile that I had logged in. So 365 has your profile logged into each of the applications. It'll pull through. So whenever it was on Teams is where the personal assistant was, it'll pull through from my Outlook. It'll pull through from the other applications.
Because I experienced the same thing that he did with ChatGPT versus, and I was thinking it should have way more information on it. Interesting.
I think, and don't quote me on this, but I think part of it is Microsoft is trying to customize to the ring fence their data and ring fence the data is only Microsoft. So it might, to your point back there, might not be pulling from the same exact models that GPT is using, or it might be outdated even from a week ago. If it updated a week ago, it might be outdated from that. I know GPT-4 is much more advanced than GPT-3 for OpenAI, and so there's a turning point between the two versions that might still be used to using the old version. Like if you're using ChatGPT and it switches to the older model, there's a distinct difference that you can tell.
So I have this problem since I was a staff accountant many moons ago. I have a spreadsheet and I just want to tell ChatGPT to highlight items add up to 20,000. And up to, I've been using it for a year or two now, a paid version, and it still didn't give me what I want. So what did I do wrong?
So I don't think you did necessarily anything wrong. Like I said earlier, everything that we're using is still evolving. It's still learning, it's still evolving, it's still getting to the activity. So that's where the human loop comes in. And it also depends on, it's like if you're putting it into ChatGPT, it's not native, or if you're using Copilot and it's not, or it's still using the old versions or it's still using the old models, there's still going to be mistakes that are going to be made, just like with some of your systems that you're going to have controls in place. So I don't think you necessarily did anything wrong. I think it's just the fact that it's still learning.
So as we talk about AI in our different systems, Excel or our ERP systems, what it can do for us, a little bit of conversation about the API, but overall, in setting up the relationship between ChatGPT or one of the languages and the underlying data, be it public data, be it our own data, what is the level of effort so that when you fire off one of your prompts, it knows where to go look to get the structure of the answer? Is that level of effort better now? Or is it similar to the old days of let me connect some fields in Excel to go pull this data table from I forgot what they call it. It used to be Smart BI or whatever it was. So does that level of effort change with connecting the data itself?
So the question is the level of effort with connecting the data, with using AI, with using all of these tools, any different than it was in the past or current? Is that fair? So in our experience, or at least in my experience in working with these large language models, working with these solutions, it depends. And I hate giving that answer. But and I'm a caveat with saying that it's going to depend on how much data you're using, what are the processes you're trying to do, what are the what are you borrowing, are you buying, or are you developing within? So that level of effort is going to change. So what's going to be for one company that's $50 million company is going to be completely different than a Fortune 100 company in the level of effort that's going to take with what they want to do. I would say in general, to get started, there is a hurdle. There is that kind of getting started cost and figuring out how this all works. There might be a couple headcount that might need to be brought in, or need to bring in consultants or bring in someone else to help with that. But once it gets underway and once it gets run, that's where the savings we're finding really occur. Does that kind of answer your question? I know it depends, is a really crappy answer, but
I think the real benefit is on the output side more so than the data connectivity. It seems like you're still up against that same. You can do the one-time usage. Here's a spreadsheet. Let me drop it into chat. Right. That's a one-time use. That's fairly easy. But to give someone a button and say every month do this analysis, is probably a more complex setup.
It's a lot more complex setup. So that goes into more setting up the data lakes, making sure that the data in is good, so there's not going to be garbage coming out. So garbage in coming out with the data. So it's going to be the same concepts that we were using in the past. It's just the output itself and how we use it on the back, or how we use it on the front end, is going to be completely different.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. more question for Kyle. Are there certain document management systems, some are server-based, some being cloud-based, that GPT can search and find you answers? Or do you have to physically upload, or say, look at this specific document? Or you can say, look through all my documents, or look through all the documents in this specific folder in my document management system, and go find me an answer.
So the question is, can it crawl all of your documents, basically? Is there a system out there? And the answer is yes, and it's still developing as well too. So we're working with tools right now internally that we're developing, that we have at Deloitte, that can go through all the documents within like a repository or within your folders and find those questions, or basically pull all the data that you need from it so you can ask those questions. That was kind of one of the examples I was giving earlier. Is we are working on that revenue recognition example. That's very similar to what we're trying to do.
Yeah, just to extend, and I asked this question to Kyle. But so many of the things that you're thinking right now in your company, your business process, and your tasks that you have to do. That's where the LLM APIs will come into picture, and some of them is a combination of software engineering and LLMs, right? So like crawling the documents, looking at the documents, more like a software engineering issue. The software and LLM APIs actually are developed to work with software. So you use the software with LLM APIs. LLM APIs will do what the LLMs can do, and you combine that power of LLMs with the software tools. That's where the developers will be able to take advantage of LLMs and then use LLMs where they want. And many of the business processes that you're thinking, but can LLMs do this, is not exactly LLMs, it's the software. The software can get documents, do all of this, database entries, modify database, send payments. You can do, an LLM agent can do a travel booking for your next conference travel, but LLMs will come into picture only where LLMs are necessary. Everything else will be handled by the APIs of software, or Expedia, or Concur, or something will do, but the LLMs will interact with those software using the APIs in the back end. So you don't have to, there is no human intervention there, except that I need to go to Las Vegas for a 4-day conference, and I'm going to go start on this date and come back on this date, and it's going to do everything for you, right? That's kind of the agent that we're talking about. And it's not the LLMs doesn't know how to send the payment, it's the software that sends the payment, right? It's another system that sends the payment, but LLMs can do the things that says, oh, I'm talking about this guy who likes to stay in a 5-star hotel, and he has a budget of $500 per night, right? And then it sends that information through the API to the Concur software, and then the Concur will do the booking, matching what the LLMs are telling about this person, or his requirement, or her requirement. So it's the mix. So the APIs is where you try to establish a bridge between your software systems and large language models.
And I'll tell you what, I know it's time. If you don't mind, we're going to 20-minute break, and you guys can hang around for that if you don't mind. If you have questions, please grab them, just so we can stay on time. Very good job for both of you. Thank you, big hand for these gentlemen.